Hi everyone, and welcome to the first episode of Therapy with Josh. I am so glad that you are here because this space is all about exploring the stories that often don't get told. This podcast is all about children's mental health, behavior, overcoming trauma, and how we can help them, and you too. I'll be uncovering the hidden truths of trauma and what it really means for you and your family. I'll be diving into research papers and breaking them down so they actually make sense, helping you better understand your child's behavior and their emotional world. But it's not just about them, it's about you as well. Together, we'll explore how to support your mental health, make sense of challenges you've faced, and ways to overcome these tough aspects of trauma. This is a space for understanding, it's for growth and healing, for you and the people you care about the most. I'm your host, Josh Finesse. I'm an early years educator based in London, and I've just started my long journey on becoming a fully qualified child psychotherapist. But my journey with kids started a long time ago. I've been working with children aged 2 to 18 for around 15 years now from all walks of life, including those from disadvantaged and diverse cultural backgrounds. I'm also a qualified dance teacher, which means I've had the privilege of seeing firsthand how movement and creativity can transform a child's confidence and emotional well-being. But if I'm honest, this podcast isn't just about my professional work, it's personal. Growing up, I had a really tough time. From a young age, I was in and out of therapy. I worked with psychotherapists myself, with psychologists. I've been through the whole process of the NHS, CAMHS. I've gone through countless behavioural assessments, and I've been on the other side of this process. I know what it feels like as a child to not behave the best, to feel like the child who didn't quite fit into the system and trying to figure out who they were in a world that sometimes just felt too big and too overwhelming. These experiences shaped me and gave me this drive and this deep sense of purpose to be here for others and to help kids that I know are going through very similar situations to what I did. I've seen how trauma can impact a child, a family, and even entire generations. I've lived it. And I know what it feels like to sit in a room with someone who doesn't quite get it. Let's be honest, not all professionals truly understand what it's like to kind of come from that normal working class background where life just isn't always smooth. I didn't grow up in privilege, and I think that that's what makes my perspective just a little bit different. I'm here to break down things in a way that feel relatable and real because I get it. I've been there. What's unique about this podcast is that I'll also be diving into the latest science and research on children, on families, on young people. And I'll be combing through these journals and studies, and I'll be pulling the most up-to-date insights and kind of explaining them in a way that kind of actually makes sense. I don't want to use jargon, none of this confusing academic language, just the facts, the practical advice that can be applied in your everyday life. Whether you're a parent looking for guidance or someone that's reflecting on their own childhood, or you're just curious about how we can better support the next generation, then this is definitely the place for you. Let's have these conversations together with honesty and heart and hopefully create some space for healing along the way. So why start a podcast about trauma? Honestly, it's something I've lived through, and it's something that I see the effects of every day in my work. Now, trauma, especially when it happens in childhood, shapes so much how we see the world, how we build relationships, how we handle challenges, and even how we grow into adulthood. And here's the truth. Not everyone's experience is the same. Now, trauma doesn't come in a kind of one-size-fits-all label, but its effects can be massive. But the good news is it doesn't have to define who you are forever. I want you to know that I get it because I've been there. My childhood, it wasn't easy, not by a long shot. I was that kid in school who just didn't fit in. I was barely in class, and when I did, I was miserable. I was the creative one who never really found a space where I could thrive. By the time I was diagnosed with dyslexia, ADHD, and dyspraxia, school already felt like a losing battle for me. I couldn't sit still, I struggled to focus, and my behavior was shocking. I was shouting all the time, I was getting so angry at everything, and I could not figure out how to deal with what was going on inside of me. My parents, they tried so hard to help when they could, and I'm so grateful for that. But to be honest, I knew that I was a handful. My early years were rough, honestly, terrible, and they left a mark on me, and I didn't fully understand until much later. I spent so much time with CAMS, which is the Child and Adolescent Mental Health Services, sitting in waiting rooms, having assessments, trying to navigate a system that I didn't really want to be a part of. I remember those visits so clearly, and I must have been 7, 8 years old. And to be honest, I didn't handle them well. I was angry and frustrated because I didn't know how to explain what I was feeling or even what I needed at that time. School life took a massive hit because of all of this. I fell behind. My grades were shocking. I felt like I didn't belong, and I carried so much of this anger with me literally everywhere I went. But now, as an adult, I can look back and see the bigger picture. Like, I remember those moments, I remember the struggles, and I remember the chaos so vividly. And I realize now how much that they've shaped who I am today. These experiences, as difficult as they were, are what gave me the drive to create this podcast. I've sat in rooms with professionals, psychologists, psychotherapists who were kind and well-meaning, but who had no idea what it was like, what I was going through. I also felt that sometimes when I was sat in a room with these professionals, they felt uncomfortable. And for me as a child of, 6, 7 years old, sitting in a room and feeling that way and feeling that energy just didn't make me feel comfortable. And I had these sessions for months and months on end, but I still have this strong energy feeling of thinking, these feel uncomfortable. Like, this person feels uncomfortable. Why would I as a child want to kind of explore that trauma with this person if this is how they feel? And I kind of reflected back on that, and my stories were deep, they were dark, they were really intense. And all I can remember thinking is, this is too much for them. Like, I'd go week after week and the energy wouldn't shift, the energy wouldn't change. They use different methods like drawing or, let's do play. And I just remember progressing through these months thinking nothing was really changing. Yeah, it was a very tough journey. We've come to the end of this episode, and I just want to say thank you seriously for being here, for taking the time to listen, and for starting this journey with me. I know your time is precious, and the fact that you've spent some of that with me means more than I can say. But before I wrap up, I want to be completely transparent with you. I'm still on my journey to becoming, a qualified therapist. It's going to be a long haul. It's a long journey for me. I haven't even started any clinical training yet. So everything that I share in this podcast is based on my personal experiences, my knowledge, and what I've learned along the way. It's not clinical advice. It's not a one-size-fits-all solution, but it is real, it's honest, and it's just coming from a place of understanding and experience. I'm not here to tell you exactly what you should do for your child because, again, every family is different. But what I am here to do is to share my perspective, my story, and my insights I've gained from living through it myself. This podcast has been a way and will be a way of me to create a space where we can have conversations that matter about trauma, child development, ADHD, dyslexia, mental health, school struggles, and so much more. Every week, I'll be diving into topics that I believe will not only help you better understand aspects of your child, but also to help you just understand yourself. Whether you're a parent, a carer, or somebody who's curious about how childhood trauma can shape who you are, then there's definitely something here for you. I know what it feels like to grow up in a disadvantaged background, to feel unheard, misunderstood, or even invisible sometimes. I know how hard it can be to break cycles of trauma, and I want this podcast to be a safe space for people like you, for people like me who just want to be heard, understood, and just get a better knowledge of development. My hope is that these conversations help you feel less alone and maybe even give you some tools to make a difference in your life, to just be able to see things from a different perspective. I can't believe that this podcast is finally happening. It's been such a long time coming, and having you here with me right now is something that I will never take for granted. So from the bottom of my heart, thank you for giving me this chance to share, to connect, and to hopefully make a difference and to help. So here's to uncovering truths, into delving into the complexities of trauma and just learning together. I'll be back next week with another episode. So I'll be doing weekly uploads. The topics, the chapters, I'm not sure yet. I am just learning. So it's going to be a journey in podcasting as well. But I just can't wait to dive into more topics that I know will resonate with so many of you. But until then, take care of yourself and remember that you are not alone in this. So goodbye for now, and I'll see you next time on Therapy with Josh. Stay safe, stay hopeful, and I'll speak to you soon.